Thank you again, everyone, for coming today. I thought it appropriate that we do something as an embassy, as an American community, to commemorate Memorial Day, which we'll celebrate as a nation on Monday. As many of you know, there's a difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Memorial Day is when we commemorate those who have fallen in our wars, those killed in action. Whereas Veterans Day is a day that we commemorate everyone, all veterans, everyone who's served in the U.S. military. This is the reason, and as I was explaining to the director, the reason why I want to do this in a sort of a smaller, more U.S.-focused setting is that it is a global holiday, even though the U.S. military has had its role and we have lost people here in Slovenia in the course of combat operations in World War II. We have other opportunities to celebrate and commemorate with our Slovenian colleagues. Every year since I've been here, we've gone with President Pahor to Pozolo, Andražna, Pozolo, to commemorate the bomber that was shot down and crashed near that site. Happier Story, we helped commemorate inaugurate the plaque at Žužemberk, where a plane came down, but all 10 crew members survived. And actually, thanks to the support from the partisans, we're back in Italy in less than a week and able to fly and fight again. We still have some of our fallen here. I know some of you in the DAO and ODC may have participated in the commemoration this last December 26th, and there's always a ceremony in the municipality of Kamnik to commemorate a mass grave that includes not only partisan remains, but also the remains of Captain Fisher, who was with the OSS and fighting with the partisans at that time, and who lost his life as a result of a Nazi ambush in that area. He was buried with 8 or 9 partisan comrades, and because the remains have been so intermingled, it was impossible to return his remains to the United States. We may have, I think the investigation is still ongoing in the case of Sergeant Duran, who was found on a hillside near Borovnica. But we may well have a second case or another case of remains here in Slovenia, and it'll be up to his family members whether or not his remains stay here or whether they are repatriated to the United States. And as I understand it, there are still 7, 8, 9 other cases of American missing in action from the World War II era that we are now starting to investigate. It'll take some time because of resource constraints, but it's a part of our shared history with Slovenia that we will continue to remember and to honor and respect those who give their lives for our common effort in World War II. For those of you who have been at these sorts of commemorations with me in the past, I've spoken of my family connection. So you're going to hear it again. My parents were of the World War II generation. All 4 of my mother's brothers were in the Army Air Corps. My father was deployed in the Pacific. He was part of a quartermaster unit in the Army. And my mother's sister's husband deployed with General Patton's army and was part of the units trained as a sniper. And it was one of the units that liberated part of Czechoslovakia at the time. 2 of my mother's brothers, one was a mechanic, and he was actually quite bitter. He was never deployed. They actually kept him in Texas to train other aircraft mechanics. But I had 2 were pilots in the Pacific Theater, and one was a tail gunner on a bomber here in Europe. And as I always tell our Slovenian colleagues when I'm at these events, I think about my uncle. He survived the war. I flew out of Britain. He was wounded in action. At the end of the European conflict, he along with my other uncle who had been in Czechoslovakia were training for the invasion of Japan that, thank goodness, did not have to happen. But I think about him, I think about my tail gunner uncle. If he had been flying out of Italy, and if his aircraft had run into troubles over Slovenia, it's always given me some measure of comfort to think that there were allies on the ground who, had he survived such an incident, would have been in a position to help him and help him survive and return to carry on the fight. So it's, again, I thank everybody for coming out, and maybe we can move down to the other end of the hall, and we'll lay the wreath and observe a moment of silence. But I should add, I also again want to thank the museum for hosting us today and allowing us to do this. Our cooperation with you has been just fabulous. The help, in addition to all the really cool armor that you managed to pick up in various places through I know some very skillful trading, the display of the to hell and back has just, I think, been a wonderful initiative. I'm glad that we were able to work together on that, and I understand that you're continuing to add to the detail and the richness of that display. For any of my American colleagues who haven't seen it, I really urge you to take a few minutes and take a look at it, particularly the interactive part of it, because it really highlights down to each individual aircraft that fell in Slovenia, just what the extent of that part of our role. I guess maybe it doesn't get in so much to the supply drops and the OSS and that kind of thing, but it's still a key element of our alliance with Yugoslavia, with the Slovenians at the time.
American version, but this is also a very particular and interesting story. So George Krieger was given also the medal, the Red Star, first class, by Tito in Belgrade in March 1945. So war lasted for 2 additional months.
Rescuing the airmen crashed America.
And he had this very close cooperation. So he was also the guy that they sent to Durban to bring presents and re-establish or establish even closer contact with the Yugoslav leadership. And actually, when the invasion and this assault by the German territory started.